Hello She-Hulk fans, and welcome back to Nerd Doc. In this video we're going to break down She-Hulk Episode 4, the post-credit scene, music from the episode, and a few Easter eggs as well, because there's a lot in this episode. There will be spoilers for She-Hulk Episode 4 in this video. There are also chapter timestamps, so you can jump around the video if you'd like, and if you have any questions about the episode or the show in general, leave a comment below. Let's start with the music in Episode 4. We aren't able to play any of the songs here because of YouTube copyright, but you can find all the music from the episode in the description below, with Spotify and YouTube links where applicable. The three main songs from this episode are Woke Up This Morning, Chosen One Mix by Alabama 3 or just A3, which played during Wong's first scene, Zoom by Jessi, which played while Jen created She-Hulk's dating profile, and Heaven is a Place on Earth by Belinda Carlisle, which plays the morning after She-Hulk finally gets some. Episode 4 begins with a Donny Blaze magic show. This is an obvious nod to Johnny Blaze, aka Ghost Rider, who is heavily rumored to be coming to the MCU in the relatively near future. If I were a betting man, I would say we'll see Ghost Rider within the next year or two at the most. While Donny Blaze does not exist in the comics, we learn throughout the episode that Donny was once a student of the mystic arts, but was kicked out after a week when he summoned 3 kegs and his frat brother, and presumably had quite the party at Kamar-Taj. Donny still has his sling ring and can open portals, but can't really control them very well. When his more traditional magic fails to impress the crowd at his magic show, he opens a portal and sends Madisynn King, an audience member, to what is essentially Hell, or at least some other dimension that closely resembles Hell. Madisynn is an interesting character who tells people how to spell her name by saying it has 2 N's and 1 Y, but it's not where you think, meaning her name is spelled Madisynn, with the Y coming late in her name instead of replacing the I as most people would assume. Anyway, once Madisynn is in Hell, or whatever dimension she was in, she meets a talking goat that helps her escape a lava pit in exchange for 6 drops of her blood, then sends her to Wong's place with a still beating heart in her hand. Later on in the episode, we learn the demon's name, which we'll talk about then, or at least the name it gave Madisynn, but given her description, it sounds a little like Baphomet, one of Satan's most powerful servants. To be clear, this could have just been some random demon, and we have another theory we'll touch on a bit later in the video, but given the fact that the supernatural side of the MCU is coming into play soon, it's certainly not out of the question that we start to see characters like Baphomet and Satan. Anyway, Madisynn basically sold her soul to this demon, but we'll see if that comes up in the future at all. Madisynn falls into Wong's place as he's just starting to watch The Sopranos. There's a subtle nod to the opening sequence of the classic HBO series as the theme song starts playing over a wide shot of Nepal, somewhat similar to the shots of New Jersey shown during The Sopranos opening. The episode Wong is watching is Long-Term Parking, which is Season 5, Episode 12. In that episode, Adriana is caught by the FBI and forced to wear a wire. When Tony finds out, he has her killed. Now, this is a bit of a stretch, but it could be foreshadowing that Madisynn is working for the demon she encountered, spying on the human world, or possibly Wong specifically. Again, it's a bit of a stretch, but we'll see if Madisynn pops up again later in the series or even in another MCU project down the road. Madisynn spoils the ending of the Sopranos episode for Wong, to which Wong claims Donny Blaze will pay. Throughout the episode, Wong talks with She-Hulk to work on a cease and desist order to stop Donny from practicing magic. Meanwhile, Jennifer Walters starts a dating profile on Matcher, which is a clear nod to Tinder, and goes on multiple failed dates. Jen only goes on one date as herself before she finally breaks down and makes a profile for She-Hulk, which immediately results in lots of matches. Later on, when Madisynn is called to testify in court, she mentions the demon she made a pact with was called Jack. Now, if this demon has any relevance to Marvel Comics or the MCU, we still think it's most likely Baphomet using a fake name. However, there's a slim chance it's actually a reference to Spring-Heeled Jack. Since this whole episode is kind of Ghost Rider themed, Spring-Heeled Jack is another spirit of vengeance just like Ghost Rider. The character first appeared in the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider comics, but was basically a version of Jack the Ripper that hunted neo-Nazis in London. Now, while this is clearly a stretch, we already have the Donny Blaze nod to Ghost Rider, Madisynn possibly having an encounter in Hell, and now we have what could be another nod to Ghost Rider, and we know Ghost Rider is coming to the MCU soon. we still aren't expecting Ghost Rider to show up in She-Hulk or anything, but there are certainly references to the character in this episode. That's probably not a coincidence. Donny is allowed to continue practicing magic until the next court date, which leads him to summoning a bunch of demons from another realm. During this episode, we never find out what race these demons are, and they could very easily just be random creatures made up for the show, but they bear a striking resemblance to Baby Brood. Yes, we know Brood are not actually demons, but they're often compared to demons and are generally featured in X-Men comics. They have a loose connection to Hulk as they were featured in the World War Hulk comics, with a member of the Brood being part of the Warbound that assisted Hulk. They've also shown up in Ghost Rider comics and comics about Scar, son of Hulk. The Brood travel through space infecting hosts in order to reproduce, but there are Brood eggs, and there's definitely a connection that can be made between the Brood, Hulk, and even Ghost Rider. One more time, we're not saying these creatures are Brood, but if you jump through enough hoops, it actually starts to connect. Donny opens a portal to Wong's place to get his help, interrupting Wong while he's watching This Is Us. Wong immediately enlists the help of She-Hulk, who was finally on a good date and about to get some at her place. She-Hulk helps Wong defeat the creatures, then gets Donny to agree to their cease and desist terms before heading back to her date and finally getting laid. The next morning, she's back in her natural form of Jennifer Walters, much to the dismay of her date, who bails on her immediately. Right after he leaves, Jen is served with a lawsuit from Titania as the episode comes to an end. Titania claims Jen stole the She-Hulk name from her. It seems as though Titania is trying to get back at Jennifer after She-Hulk stopped her rampage in the first episode, so she copyrighted the She-Hulk name, specifically to sue Jen, even though Jen didn't come up with the name herself. As Jennifer referenced in the first episode, while she didn't create the She-Hulk name, she has been going by it, which means implied endorsement. The next episode will likely be Titania heavy, as this case goes to court. The post-credit scene shows Wong and Madisynn pretty cozy at Wong's place, with Madisynn in her PJs and the two of them watching This Is Us again. Madisynn is asking Wong what kind of drinks he's had. This isn't really a reference to anything beyond the fact that Wong seems to have a new girlfriend now, or maybe just a new annoyance in his life. This relationship probably won't last very long because we know Wong has another girlfriend by the time we get to the events of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. One of Wong's love interests in the comics is Sarah Wolf, and one of the women he interacts with in Multiverse of Madness is also called Sarah. However, she dies, so Wong may go back to Madisynn after that? Who knows, we'll see. Once again, Madisynn may have something going on with Baphomet, or may even be connected to Spring Hill Jack, Ghost Rider, or even Mephisto himself. Finally! Take that, WandaVision! So on one hand, this is just a random encounter, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, this could be a subtle lead-in to Mephisto and Ghost Rider. So what do you think about Madisynn, Wong, and the potential connection to Ghost Rider in this episode? Are you enjoying She-Hulk's Case of the Week format? Let us know in the comments below. For now, that wraps up this video. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who had crazy Mephisto theories during WandaVision.